Poetry Center, bringing poetry to Paterson since 1980 at Passaic County Community College.
Our next finalist is Julia Lisella, and she's the author of 3 full-length collections of poetry, Our Lively Kingdom, Always, and Terrain, and the chapbook Love Song Hiroshima. Her poems appear in numerous anthologies. She is also a scholar and critic specializing in women's writing, Italian-American literature, American poetry, and modernism. She is co-editor of Modernist Women Writers and American Social Engagement. She holds a BA in English from Barnard College, an MA in Creative Writing from New York University, and a PhD in English from Tufts. She's a professor of English at Regis College in Massachusetts. Born and raised in Queens, New York, she makes her home in Massachusetts and co-curates the Italian-American Writers in Boston literary series at I Am Books in Boston's North End. Let's welcome Julia Lisella.
Thank you, Maria. And Maria featured for us in Boston, and it was a fabulous night.
Thank you.
Everyone was standing to honor her.
And my daughter started to cry.
Yeah, good. Make them cry, right?
Well, I felt terrible. I felt guilty. And her stepdaughter's there patting her on the back. Anyway,
it wasn't a good crying? I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was a good crying.
Maybe not. And James, I'm sorry, we didn't realize you were here, so Amma and I were taking pleasure in being the 2 finalists, but it was so wonderful to hear your work. And so great to see Tom. I took a workshop with Tom many years ago, and then finally to meet Joshua and Amma, who, I'm scheduling her in Western Massachusetts for events. And yeah. But I have to tell you a funny story. When the letter came from the Poetry Center, I didn't open it. And my husband
and a fundraiser.
I did. My husband said, "Why don't you open that?" I said, "They just want money. What do you mean? I'll take care of it later." And he said, "I just have a funny feeling about that. I think you should open it." So I opened it, and then he said, "You can't stop smiling, can you?" I was so thrilled, and I'm really thrilled to be in Paterson, where there's so much poetry history, and to be at the Poetry Center that you've just created this amazing thing here. It's really special. So I feel very honored to be among you winners, for sure. My bio that you read made me sound like such a scholar. Wow, I don't know what I sent or what you got, but anyway. It's all good. So I'll just read a few poems from Our Lively Kingdom, and a shout out to my editor at Bordighera Press. These small presses, Nick Grosso is a wonderful editor, and he saw something in the book, and I, really appreciated that. So I'm going to start with a love poem, which I don't usually do, because I think we need more love. Long Distance. I'm listening to him, listen to me over the cell phone line. A low swoosh of small stories meant to close a gap in time we'll have when I return. My voice a slow trickle, like rivulets of river water over stones. I watch a bird darting in the underbrush as I tell him a story of our daughter's phone call to me. He responds by telling me he is staring out the back window of our kitchen at our dog on our porch who is staring at a bird in our backyard. He heads outside to put the phone to the dog's ear to see if he will recognize my voice. He says the sound of me does not recall me for the dog. I laugh. He says, which is different than Thanks. Many of the poems in the book are about the confluences of literary influences, but how they influence a kid who grows up with working class parents, who came through the Depression. My grandparents were immigrants. It's different, So I have a few poems in here, and I'm going to read two of them. This is just a section of a longer poem. During the time I was writing the book, there was this great project online called the Sylvia Plath Project, and the two women who ran it posted in her last year of her life, Sylvia Plath, she wrote nearly a poem a day. Some days she wrote more than one. And this is about one of those days that I was responding to. And then you would respond as a poet. Poems for my birthday. On November 6th, 1962, I was exactly 1, held in the arms of a mother of 4. I was the 4th, the chubbiest, the stillest, easy to manage. She placed me inside the carriage, fixed the blanket with her eyes on something else. She hurried inside to finish her work and did not watch the slow trio, my grandfather pushing the carriage, flanked by the curious black-haired 3-year-old girl, gray-eyed like the doe, unflinching. That day, as my nonno strolled us up and down 246th Street in Belrose, Queens, Sylvia Plath wrote 3 poems in her cold London flat. It was cold. We can know this now. My sister hummed. My grandfather squinted at the unusual November sun, each of us bundled in 60s flannel. My mother wanting to nap, but no, scrubbing a pot, delivering a cup of tea to my cranky grandmother, figuring out dinner. She stands still for a minute, rubs her palms against the sides of her apron. She isn't thinking much, but she can feel the afternoon waning. My grandfather has returned with the 2 of us, and there are so many next things to do. Thanks. This poem, it's a short poem called Anger. And it has 2, I do this, I have very long epigraphs for tiny poems. So this has 2 epigraphs. One is from the Reverend Dr. Maggie Arnold. She was known to say, "Anger is as sure a signal of love as smoke is of fire." And then this is from the Psalm 37. "Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not yourself in any way to do evil." When I bend down to hear the rosemary grow, half-shadowed from the sun, struggling for its green scent, I want to strike a blow to each hand carrying a torch that lights a village somewhere. I want anger because I want what I've been warned to avoid. I want to do evil to evil. The scent of rosemary still on my fingers. I roll the needles through my palms. The more I need it, I feel the more that it will grow. So I think I'm good. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good. Okay. This poem is called Thoughts About Hunger on a Morning Walk, and it features my son. So I felt like reading it because yesterday we just dropped my son off, who's much older now, in Bushwick. I don't. Okay. Thoughts about hunger on a morning walk. All life is like that, a pursuit to satiate hunger, hunger for love, hunger for food, hunger for, and in pursuing it, not beauty, but violence, which eats that hunger, persistent as the ants in the cleave of sink, the wasps boring out of the hole in the ground, the dog whining for the company of some mammal nearby, The squirrel carrying half a bagel across the lawn and in a flash dropping it in pursuit of another catch, more life in which to pursue hunger. The lady in night shorts watering the lamppost and the curved brick edging while the grass beneath her slippers yearns. This is the way we trick ourselves, decorating the hunger with potted plants and plastic figurines. My text to my son 200 miles away, "Have a good day, I love you," which is not a real greeting, but the hunger to lift him again in my arms as he once was. Even my mother at 97 still feeding me her hunger, her worry, her thirst, her arms nearly breakable in sleep, joints no longer connecting elbow, knees, and toes. Parrying, contemplating. These are just fillers like so much refuse on the shoreline of a city beach, evidence that we lived, broke open a beer, relished a drumstick or an apple, cores and bones washing up, reminding us of hunger. Now at the kitchen sink, the minuscule ants march ferociously into the sprayed raid, as if each still in life, still in pursuit, still hungry. And I'm just going to end with, I guess I read faster than everybody else. So I'm just going to read this last poem. It has a long epigraph, but I'll try to read that fast. It's called Envelope Poem, and I was inspired by this quote from Jan Bervin in Studies in Scale, her book about Emily Dickinson's writings. It's called The Gorgeous Nothings. And Jan Bervin writes, Emily Dickinson sent this minuscule 2-inch long pencil in a letter to the Bowles. And the quote is, "If it had no pencil, would it try mine?" Wryly nudging them to write. It was enveloped in a letter folded into thirds horizontally, pinned closed at each side. Okay, so this is the poem. Like the poet, my mother wrote letters all her life, puzzling messages half in pencil, half in ink. She'd tape them laboriously instead of pin them, each note almost the same. Instead of a pencil hinting for us to write, a $5 bill sometimes crimped into a small square, and when most mischievous, a single dollar folded many times, and "Have a cup of coffee, see you soon, God willing," scratched inside a greeting card from a mission she'd given money to, or on a quarter of a blue-lined sheet of loose leaf, and wrapped and edged on that another note, kisses and hugs marked in X's and O's. Each edge of card or sheet snugly taped, the envelope itself double-sealed, especially the minuscule space between where the envelope's glue ends and no sealant lives. Now the notes addressed to my kids, and like Emily's command to the Bowles to write back, "Take your mother out for coffee. Buy something. God bless." Thank you. Hi. I'm Julia Lisella, and I am one of the finalists for the Paterson Poetry Book Prize. And today we're going to be hearing the work of the winners and then a few of the finalists who were able to come. So very excited.
How long has it been doing poetry, writing
Oh,
poetry?
wow. I've been writing since I was a kid. My sister is a bit older than me, and she was an English major, so she was always bringing poetry home to the house, and it was a language to me that made sense, growing up.
And what could you share with those inspiring poets or people who just want to write just to get it out of their head?
Yeah.
Get their spirit.
Well, I think poetry can give voice to things that other art forms can't do in the same way. And I think it's important to remember there's no really right way to do it. There's a way into the work, which is your, following your spirit into the work. So I think it's important for kids to know that they have a voice and they can make things. And, poetry is you make
I
it.
spill everything
It's
all
it's a
out.
piece of art that you can be in charge of,
It's the age.
and I love that about poetry.
You look good.
Thank you.
Thank you.